Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 207. There's been a lot of things going on now with the classic launch, hitting all of us really, really hard, a lot harder than what most people expected. There's been world breaking records on everything Twitch, Wowhead, also other news sites. Everyone is talking about WoW Classic. And that's what we'll be talking about as well as any other things that have been going on in the past 2 weeks. Before we go on, let me introduce myself. I am Annie, or AnnieFuchsia. I'm a full-time streamer on Twitch, and my co-host is the lovely Perculia.
Hey everyone, I'm Perk. I run Wowhead. Always really fun to do these shows, especially when it's a super busy time, because we get to share insights into what we've been working on and highlight what has been the most popular on Wowhead. We've had a really busy past few weeks, more users than we usually get for an expansion, and we have been trying to really keep up with all the guides and news updates. So our show will have a lot of classic news, but also some Blizzcon news and even some 825 news with Recruiter Friend that just came up right before this show.
Mm-hmm.
So
That literally happened like during the note making of
yeah,
the prep
exactly.
today, like an hour ago. Like, by the way, the notes have now been updated because of this new stuff. Okay,
Yep.
got it. Got it. All the live news always here. But yeah, let's dive into what is going on. WoW Classic has now been live for over 2 weeks, I
Yeah,
believe,
2 weeks and
and 2 days.
1 day.
One day. One
Yeah,
day.
1 day. Yeah.
That's it. That's so much time already. I barely feel barely feel the 2 weeks. I think because when you
Yeah, they just
spend
went
so
in the
much
blink
time
of an
leveling,
eye.
yeah, it's like wait, it's been 2 weeks. I thought it'd been maybe like 1 week at most. I don't know. But
Yeah, it's
yes,
sort of blurred together, especially
it
with the
really
US
has.
holiday. It just, I don't know. I don't know
Mm.
where the time went.
Mm-hmm. And especially for those of us who are spending lots and lots of hours just leveling all the time.
Yeah, what level are you so far?
I'm 47, so I'm actually not 60 yet.
So, I think with the way the experience is, 47 is actually the midway point as far as the experience you have to earn. So,
I've
congrats, you're halfway
heard
there.
I have heard those kind of I don't know, I want to call it claims, but it's not that I think it's fake or anything. It is very interesting that the number is exactly around there. I've heard anything from between 40 and 48 being the halfway point, and that is really, really interesting. However, I was avoiding dungeons. I didn't want to do dungeons. I
Oh,
only did dungeons when I had a bunch of quests, stacked up for them.
right.
So I went Nomergon once, for example, and I wanted to, an older man I did once. I wanted to only do the dungeons once to get all the quests and then continue questing because I like the idea of completion and I want my warlock, my main character, to have done every single quest. Eventually, like not at
I think
once.
that's a nice idea and it prevents burnout. You should do the dungeons once just because they have really good quest rewards, and some of the
Mm-hmm.
major stories
Mm-hmm.
require you to go to the dungeon
Mm-hmm.
to learn, what the big like plot reveal is. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good that you're not spamming the dungeons and you're just sort of trying to level up organically in the outdoor world like Blizzard had designed it.
Well, then the problem is that questing takes a long time.
Hmm.
So that means other people are then spamming dungeons and then are 10 levels above me. So basically, what I have had to do now was deal with stream snipers. People would group up, and because I want to do most of my questing on stream, right? Like, I don't want to
Right.
not stream and play. I want to do my questing, but I want to do it on
Mhm.
stream. And people would make groups to find me, to kill me, to gank me, and they're levels
Oh.
above me, so they're resisting everything. I barely do any damage to them. They kill me in a stun, and then I'm just gone. I'm just ghost walking. And I would swap layer to get rid of them. They would go through different layers to find me again. So basically, my questing experience was ruined because
Oh
of
no.
streaming. Unlucky. But that's what happened. I had a short period of that right before or right around the Scarlet Monastery levels. So
Right.
I remember doing one stream of dungeons that day just to get rid of them. But it only got worse later on because of how ahead people are in levels. So it became harder to deal with that level gap. So the past 2 days, I actually have just given in to doing dungeons. And now I've leveled like 5 times in like a day or two. Like I'm starting to
Oh.
like leveling. I'm starting to level really fast because I'm doing dungeons, but my whole questing experience is unfortunately ruined. But maybe I'll
Oh.
come back later, or maybe I'll have an ult somewhere that I'm leveling in my own time. I don't know.
Yeah, you can have a
It
secret
kind of
alt.
sucks. Yeah, secret ult.
Yeah.
A secret alt. No, I really wanted to level because dungeon spamming is something that I really dislike. Even in the BFA, I'm the kind of person I don't even like spamming Mythic Plus. I have this thing where I prefer outdoor things rather than spamming the
Right.
same thing over and over, and I'm unfortunately stuck doing that now in order to be able to outlevel my gankers so I can gank them back. So that's what's going on with me. What about you? Have you been
I I
mm-hmm,
am level 15. I
15?
am no
Mm-hmm.
right paw, not on the no, not on
Oh.
keyboard. I am level 15. I have
Mm.
been leveling just in the Night Elf zones. I know that I
The
could go
pretty
to
zones.
Stormwind
Mm-hmm.
and level in, like Elwyn and Westfall, but I've just been doing stuff in Darkshore, and it's been very weird and emotional how you're doing these quests, and they're like, oh no, the moss is corrupted. We should learn why it's doing this. And it's like, you're gonna be dead like in a few
Oh
years anyway.
no!
Like
You're
it's like
thinking
all
of
these
the
characters are
future.
either gonna be
Yeah.
dead in Cataclysm when Aberdeen goes away, or they're going to
Yeah.
be dead in BFA between Darnassus and then the Darkshore Warfront.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this very emotional experience questing, and there's so
Mm-hmm.
many unfinished threads. Yet you almost have to wonder if Blizzard was planning the Night Elf zones to tie into the Emerald Nightmare raid they were going to have planned, or maybe some
Mm.
of the threads are coming through now because it's all the very first quest you do when you log in. It's all, oh, they built the tree and the dragons didn't bless it and the tree is corrupt and weird things are growing there and there's this like political deadlock between Tehran and Staghelm, and you're just like, whoa, like this is very it's interesting knowing that the tree burned, and the
Yeah.
first thing you hear in classic is that the tree is actually corrupt, and you do all these quests
Yeah.
talking about corrupt nature, and nobody knows why things are corrupt, but how it's very apparently it's very disturbing, and everyone in Darnassus and Aberdeen is trying to figure out why the forests are corrupt. So
Mm.
I don't know, maybe something more is going to come of that in BFA. But yeah, it's very haunting if this NPC is like, thank you for the samples. Like, I hope to have research soon. It's like, oh, you're actually going to be dead.
Oh
Like,
no! You have
yeah.
to not think like that, Perk. Have to think about the now, not the years later. And who knows? Maybe this classic has a different future. Maybe this is a different
Ooh.
dimension.
It's like Warlords of Draenor, but classic WoW.
Yes, yes. Maybe this world will not experience the cataclysm. Who knows? Maybe
But
there
yeah,
was
and
some
it
kind of
just, yeah.
difference and a butterfly effect, and everything just changed. Maybe the butterfly effect is us being there since we know this stuff, so we
You were
prevent those
preventing.
things from happening.
Interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah, I've
who
also
knows?
heard that on the Forsaken side too, that some of the early quests like show that Sylvanas is very like ruthless even then.
Mm,
And it
mm-hmm.
now that we know what happens in BFA, you're sort of like, oh, that's an interesting detail that, was actually Bright Paw.
Oh, that's
Oh
amazing! Hi,
my
Bright
god.
Paw. Oh, the eyes, the beautiful eyes. Hi, Bright Paw. That was so
Anyway,
cute. Uh huh.
it's just funny what you can the I think back in the day, I just was impressed by how pretty everything was, and
Uh
I was
huh.
exploring and having fun with friends. But now in
Mm-hmm.
retrospect, I'm like, oh, like this quest has this little detail which is actually really relevant to how they have
Mm,
developed
mm-hmm.
BFA, or things with the old gods or the
Mm-hmm.
Twilight Hammer, or you know the glory of the Forsaken. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Like
having an
having
interesting,
a deeper
yeah,
perspective in the lore.
yeah. So I'm having fun with that, even though I am leveling more slowly because every few levels I'm
That's
like,
okay.
oh, I need to
Yeah.
like update our dungeon guide to have a
Yeah,
walkthrough,
yeah,
or
yeah.
you
No,
know, need to
it
update
sounds
my
like you're
profession
enjoying it.
guide.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
much better to just be there and enjoy it. I think in a way being a streamer kind of ruins the experience, not only because of streams numbers but also the pressure of needing to be higher level, because you feel like you're behind when you compare yourself to other streamers and what your viewers are expecting of you. So I feel like in a sense you probably have a more long lasting enjoyment of the experience by being able to just level
Oh,
slowly, read through all the quests and things like that, and then having that perspective, knowing so much about the lore that you do,
yeah.
every little thing will matter so much more just reading about it. So that's nice to hear.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm having fun with my taking my screenshots of everything and
Mm-hmm.
saving all these weird items. I'm like, oh, I can't get rid of the shirt, or like I can't get rid of my first dagger. And it's funny when some quests are still challenging years later. There's this night elf quest that sends you to, you have to stealth off onto a branch that's overlooking the ocean, and then you have to pickpocket a demon, but the demon can recognize stealth quickly, and if he senses you in stealth, he'll like keep summoning infinite minions. um and if you run the wrong way, if you die on the branch, you could very easily fall off the branch in wisp form, and the graveyard is not close by. So I
Yeah.
remember struggling with this so much in vanilla. I didn't know the difference between like left and right click. I think I was just like auto attacking the demon from stealth. And I definitely had this memory where I tensed up trying to do it in classic. And I actually failed one time, but I was smart enough to be like, oh, I need to run away because, in vanilla, I'm like, I'll just keep killing these endless minions. And I just would die or fall off the
Yeah.
branch or something horrible. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a funny moment of, I'm not going to do the same thing again. I'm smarter now.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully we all are. It's like it's
Yeah.
been so long. It's crazy. Nobody expected us to come back, so it's mind blowing. It's amazing to have this, to have Classic WoW as an actual official game, and I
Yeah.
think all the hype around it that we have witnessed is proof of that. It's been
Yeah.
awesome. Mm-hmm.
So we will talk a little bit about some records in the show, but I think we should
Yes.
talk about something people can do right now if they
Yes.
want to get a nice little bit of bonus experience, and that is the Harvest Festival.
Yes. We have
So,
events available straight away in Classic. We don't have to wait for different phases. So currently, we have the Harvest Festival being active on both NA and EU, correct?
yeah, we believe it started sometime yesterday. There's no calendar, so we don't officially know. We just logged on and
That's
we're like,
something
oh,
I
there are
really miss.
tables.
I
Yeah.
tend to click the calendar thing even when I talk about non WoW things. Like when I'm going to talk to my stream about, on Saturday, I'm actually going to be doing this thing. I tend to open the calendar to get like a perspective of how long or how far Saturday is from now.
Hmm.
And then I click
Yeah.
that thing, the sun, and nothing happens. And I'm like, right, there's no calendar. Never mind, guys. But yeah, so
So,
the event happened, started maybe around yesterday.
yep. And the quest honoring a hero
Mm-hmm.
grants you 6,600 experience, which is pretty good for Classic WoW.
Yeah, that is good.
And
Mm-hmm.
the quest starts at level 30. And
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty easy to do. You just have to run to a place, the Grom's Monument or Uther's Tomb.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're level 30 and you try to run to Western Plaguelands, that might be a bit tricky. So go with a friend because there's like level 50s nearby.
Yeah.
And if you're cheap, this is also a good holiday because
If you're
at the
cheap.
feast tables in Ugrimmar and Ironforge, there are feasts, and you click on them, and they give you free food that can restore health or mana. And it's not as good as the best food, but it's free.
Yeah.
So you can save some money as opposed to, vendor food.
Mm-hmm. And you can save yourself from having to ask your mage friends who might get a little bit annoyed. It's funny. So mage level 50 have the level 45 drinks, and
Yeah.
whenever they get asked to make drinks for them, some of them actually get annoyed because they can only conjure two of them at once because they don't have the spell that conjures like a whole stack of them.
Yeah, the drinks are weird. Like you can actually get really good drinks at the end, but I think that's from one of the books. It's not
Oh, like
like
even
along
better?
the way
Okay.
leveling, it's not as good. But
Uh-huh.
then like really good rank later on.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so this harvest festival is a great way to, go pick up some food and drinks. And they're all also conjured, so obviously it means that it's for your PlayStation. And if you log out, they'll probably disappear. But it's still good to just, go there, grab a few stacks, and then go out questing or dungeoning or whatever else you're doing.
Yeah. So also there are festival fireworks. So if you're doing anything for RP or you want to celebrate a Ragnaros kill, these are fireworks, and some of them I believe are only available through the vendors. So you can't, they're a unique look. You should stock up on them.
Mm-hmm. I see the comments in the chat about expected to be the fizzy water story. Okay, so let me tell you a story.
Okay.
The mage can conjure a drink called mineral water at level 35, and I think it gives around 1300 mana. And then at level 45, it's conjuring sparkling water, and that's 2900 mana, I believe. So I made it sweet today, letting everyone know that Blizzard is aware that sparkling water is simply much better. It's the superior drink. So I was wondering, Perk, what do you think of sparkling water?
I like sparkling water when you mix it with some sort of like fruit flavor. So you
Okay.
get like fizzy, like fruity water,
Okay.
like
Uh huh.
watermelon or hibiscus or something like that.
Is that
But
like a subtle taste?
yeah, like an Italian soda type of
Uh huh.
thing. Um,
Italian soda. I'm not sure what that is.
I almost wonder if that's like an American term for something they want to sound exotic that Europe actually doesn't use.
I don't know.
But
Maybe they use it in Italy.
basically, it's like sparkling water that
Uh huh.
has fruit flavoring,
Okay. Uh huh.
like some sort of fruit syrup flavoring.
Okay.
So I like sparkling fizzy water in that context, but by
Mm-hmm.
itself, I guess my brain when I see water, I'm like, oh, it's so refreshing, and then I'm like, oh, it's
This is not
bubbly. This isn't.
refreshing.
This is not exactly what I expected.
Yeah.
But I guess with the fruit flavoring, I do like the fizzy water, but by itself, I prefer
Uh
the
huh.
normal water. And I think
Yeah.
Brightpaw prefers the flat water too. Don't you, Brightpaw?
Yeah.
You don't
I
like
feel
the
like most people do prefer the flat water, and I'm not sure if it's a culture thing too, but sparkling water seems to be a lot more popular in Scandinavia. So when I have
Hmm.
friends coming in from the US or England and they go outside into the stores and they want to buy some water, they find that 95% of the water being sold is sparkling because nobody actually buys regular water in Sweden since we have very clean tap water, so everyone drinks from the tap. So when you ask for
Interesting. Yeah.
water, usually you're probably asking for sparkling water. And I think it's
Interesting.
funny because I love sparkling water, and I'm not sure if that's because I'm simply used to it. I really like it. And I find it funny that the sparkling water in the game made by mages is worth more than the mineral water. I thought it was a funny little detail.
Yeah, I also like how the mages are all fancy and they're like, "Oh, what version of water do you want?" Do you?
Yeah.
It's not just like, "Oh, here's some, stale biscuit." It's like, "Do you want the sparkling water or do you
Uh
want
huh.
like other water?" And it's not just like tap water, it's like mineral water
Oh
from
yeah, of course.
the
Can't be tap
mountains of
water.
Alterac.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not like, "Oh, here's the water from the Stormwind sewers."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so beyond the Harvest Festival,
Mm-hmm.
this was another interesting bit of news
Mm-hmm.
from a few days ago, over the
Yes.
weekend. There was a layer hopping hotfix. You may have seen a photoshopped image going around of someone with like thousands of arcane crystals. That was proven to be photoshopped. Blizzard said that wasn't the case, but there's also details on the picture making it very obvious like the map was in the wrong location or the way the icons were cropped. It didn't make sense. But
Mm-hmm.
there was layering abuse to the point where Blizzard added a cooldown so you cannot hop between layers nonstop. The more you hopped, the longer
Like you
the
get a
cooldown
cooldown.
would go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so this was something that was added on the weekend. Have you seen people really abusing this, or did this hotfix affect how you were trying to level jump as you were questing? Because
Mm-hmm.
me and Darkshire, I wasn't really seeing too much of this abuse, but I'm curious if you saw anything different.
I did not see that much abuse of it. I did notice that people were using it a lot, but not to the point where I'd call it abuse. People were asking to be invited to layers all the time in the world chats. I'm not sure if that's because they were trying to farm specific items. I think mostly they would go into a layer, see a lot of the opposite faction, and hope to get into a new layer where there isn't that much of that faction. I feel like that's mostly what people were using it for. But of course, I have heard stories of people using it to, mine minerals or to gather herbs, etc. I remember trying it once after it became a topic to be somewhere and like ask for layer and see if I could get some mines to spawn. And honestly, I think this is only something that was abusable at max level, which I guess was most people's points, right? They were talking about arcane
Right.
crystals and
Yeah.
like the black lotus, because
Mhm.
I don't think it's something that could be used in the lower levels because there aren't that many layers and there are players in all of those layers. So if you want to mine this, I don't know, mithril ore, and you jump into the next layer, it's probably already been mined in the next layer as well. But
Mhm.
then if you go into, if you're one of the few level 60 herbalists and you're looking for black lotus, then it is more likely that there will be a black lotus in every layer simply because there is, less level 60s. But I think they made it clear that it isn't as common as people make it. It is still rare, and also there isn't that many layers to actually abuse. I think they said most servers, all servers are a single digit number of layers, so
Mhm.
no server has more than 9, and most servers are in the low numbers. So I'm guessing around 2 to 3 layers, maybe on the more popular ones, maybe 4 or 5. Um, and it's something that I could feel too, because sometimes I would ask for a new layer because I'm getting ganked, and then I get invited
Right.
by someone, and I'm still on the same layer. So
Oh, right, because yeah, there aren't too many to hop between, and you
yeah,
went through them all.
yeah. And whenever the gankers would look for a layer to find me, it wouldn't take them very long either. It would take them maybe 5 minutes to find the correct layer. So I feel like there wasn't that many layers, and I think it makes sense that it couldn't have been abused as much as those screenshots would have suggested. But I can imagine that the people who got to 61st would have an advantage over
Mhm.
other people on those gathered items.
Yeah. So we were also talking about at the start how Classic was surprising everyone with its massive success and how we were experiencing it and others were. And we wanted to talk a little bit about Classic WoW's success on Twitch and Reddit. The website Twitch Tracker was saying for the first week that WoW had more active streams than Fortnite. WoW had over 48 million hours watched on Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
and over 1.1 million viewers watched Classic WoW the day of launch, and this was significantly more than Battle for Azeroth, which had 600,000.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, the
Peak
subreddit,
concurrent. Mm-hmm.
yeah, the subreddit had they passed by 300,000 subscribers very quickly, and I think they're at 300,000 50 now, so they're still
Mm-hmm.
rapidly growing, and they had something like 4 million unique visitors, and
Mm.
top 10 most active subreddits as far as comments, which is
Mm-hmm.
impressive because it's going up against places like like our relationships, or like
Yeah.
animals and stuff like that.
Did you see the tweet by Ashley?
I did not actually. Let
Okay,
me
so let me see if I can find it.
let me see.
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay, I'll link it in the document,
Okay.
and I'll link it in the stream chat too, in case people want to check it out.
Yep.
Basically, she tweeted a picture of the today's top growing communities. And number 1 is r/classic WoW, and number 2 is r/relationship advice. And
Oh,
then
that's great.
she wrote, "I wonder if the two are connected." Hashtag WoW Classic. I thought that was a very funny tweet.
Yeah, that is very cute. But yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
Classic is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um it's Blizzard even made that video, the little song that was having a lot of celebrities that
Oh
played
yeah,
WoW in
that
the
was really
past.
cool. Mm-hmm.
and like they were all doing unboxings. So, WoW is firmly in the spotlight again. And it's suddenly cool again to play WoW for these few
Mm-hmm.
weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say that we expected it to be, bigger than a patch, maybe like an expansion on Wowhead, but the traffic we're seeing is more than the recent expansions.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems pretty cool. I don't want to say that we weren't prepared, but I think we thought things would be at a slightly different pace.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the interest we saw, we were definitely like doubling down on updating things faster and commissioning more rounds of guides.
Mm-hmm.
And normally we don't see a lot of people on Friday night because people are older and they are usually doing family stuff. But Fridays, it's like, oh yeah, we're getting into the weekend. We're gonna stay up all night marathoning WoW,
Yeah.
and suddenly Friday nights are pretty intense on the site. And obviously, Labor Day when North America had off, that was a pretty big traffic day as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's funny how a lot of our trends on the site have been all up in the air since Classic came out, and people are reverting to how they used to play maybe 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's
Which
something that we also saw with all the crazy queue times.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Yeah,
just
Blizzard.
realized we
Go
haven't
ahead.
had a show since then, and the queues, we haven't really commented on it, but it's been insane.
Yeah, I feel like this now they're sort of calming down because
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard added so many more realms and even free transfers, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the queues aren't really as much of a thing now, but yeah, that was really intense.
Yeah.
I remember we started blogging the queue times because no one could log in, and like that, I don't know, it was like a quarter of the people looking at the site were just reading our queue times
Yeah.
posts. So
Yep.
people were
I had
yeah.
like during that first week, I started doing this thing where I would wake up at 1 p.m. and then I'd go back to sleep. At 1 p.m., I would put myself in the queue, and then I'd wake up around 6, 7, and around that time, so 5, 6 hours
Right.
later, I'm just about getting into my server. And then I'd be ready to stream for the day. And there would be 1 or 2 days where I would mess that up by, I don't know, maybe I'd get in a bit too early, or I would get in too late, or something would happen. Maybe I didn't wake up at 1 p.m. So in those days, it was actually really frustrating because it makes you feel really tilted. Like you don't really feel
Mm-hmm.
like sitting there just
But I
waiting
thought
for
you
the
had
queue.
streamer privilege. I thought like you just had this like magical like button that just fleeced you into the world, and
Oh
you had like an
yeah, but
anti-gaking aura around you.
anti-gang. Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, well, I had that for a few days, but you can't abuse it too much, right? Can't use the
Right,
perks all the time.
right.
No, but it was quite frustrating sometimes, and especially like annoying on the days when I'd have front page promotion because then I'm
Right.
like, okay, well, what do I do now? I can't just log retail. I can't just take the day
Mhm.
off. Like I need to do something.
Right.
So on those days, I would try to level on something where there wasn't so much queue. So I would be because of my time zone, I would be able to log into like Ferlina US, for example,
Oh, right.
just
Right.
because it's like not
It's like
prime
yeah,
time for
not peak
them.
time for US,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So sometimes I'd be able to do that, and sometimes I would just sit in the queue and just have the queue open on my stream, like, yeah, this is what we're doing today, guys, for the next 60 minutes. But yeah, the queues have calmed down though, so it's not as bad anymore. I think now during peak time, it's maybe 4K on my server,
Right.
um, which I think is like maybe 2 hours, maybe three. So it's a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah. So this next topic
Mm-hmm.
caused a bit of confusion and controversy. I think the
Oh.
actual
Mm-hmm.
announcement it wasn't bad, but it got deleted, which confused everyone.
Yep.
So Warcraft Brazil made a post basically saying that level 60 players would receive a level if you hit level 60 in Classic WoW, you would receive BFA and 110 boost
Yep.
at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some people at Wowhead from Brazil who translated it, so I trust them that they translated it correctly. We
Yeah.
made a post. People are kind of positive. They're like, "Oh, that's nice. They're trying to get Classic into BFA. Like, it's a nice perk." And then Warcraft Brazil deleted the post. And everyone's like,
Yeah.
is this still a thing? Like, will they announce this at BlizzCon that if we hit level 60, we're going to get like a free boost? Like, is this not a thing? What's going on? Like, should I not buy a boost? Should I just
Mm-hmm.
wait for my free one to come in? So we don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah. And there's been no comment on it either, right?
No, they just deleted it.
They just Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, from the way that I understood it, which I think would still be a great idea, is that it could be that if you hit level 60, you get BFA. And if you have
Mhm.
BFA, that comes with a 110 boost. So I think if you
Right.
already had BFA, you would not necessarily get a 110 boost because then, well, you already have the game, so there's nothing to
Right.
gift you. Um, but the fact that they deleted it is a big question mark. What does that mean? Was it supposed to be a thing only in Brazil? Was it not supposed to be announced yet? Was it just an idea that wasn't confirmed yet?
Yeah,
And
maybe it was like a misinterpretation because there's sales going on. So maybe they were just like, oh, like play classic, also buy BFA, have fun in both games, and people took it too literally. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. But it was a community manager person, right?
Yeah,
Who
it was
the
on the official
Brazilian. It
Facebook.
was official.
So
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So
I guess we'll see. Maybe there'll be some kind of promotion in the next few weeks or the next month or so. I feel like if people are leveling and maybe some of them are kind of like giving up the last grind,
hmm
like you said, being level 48, but you're only halfway, or you said
right.
47, I think. So maybe
Yeah.
some people gave up at that point, and then having a promotion like this, like by the way, if you actually make it to 60, you get BFA for free. Maybe that will
hmm
possibly help or motivate people to do that last push. Or people who are 60 and don't have much to do, then they could try out BFA as well. So maybe it was
Yeah.
just a timing that they weren't happy with, or maybe it was completely misunderstood. We don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of people that do not have issues with leveling slowly, who are already level 60, we have some world first, and yeah,
Some world
world first
first.
classic is
Uh
not
huh.
like the same as vanilla, but it's still impressive to see how people can race when they're
How
in
fast.
a
Mm hmm.
marathon
Mm hmm.
mindset.
Mm hmm.
So, first up, we have the Guild Apes that got the world first kills on Ragnaros and Onyxia.
Mm hmm.
And it was interesting how Onyxia was actually more challenging than Ragnaros. And I think that was more impressive overall because they didn't have a full raid because you have to do the really long attunement
Yeah.
for
Mm hmm.
everyone.
Mm hmm.
Um, and then uh, they actually wiped at one point, and the kill took so long that I thought they had actually wiped again because I saw them with like a few people up, and then I came back 10 minutes later and they were a few people up again. I'm like, oh, they must have wiped. Oh no, it's the same. They're just
Yeah, it's the same
going for
attempt.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a lot of warriors, a lot of mages as expected, as those are very popular leveling classes and versatile. A lot of priest healers, and I think they had like one druid or not a lot of other classes in the raid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was still fun to watch. I know that this group is like very experienced with going for speed kills.
Mm hmm.
So this isn't, like the world first BFA race where nobody is doing the final boss and you have to do consumables and stuff in advance. This is very different, almost like an exhibition. But
Mm
the
hmm.
bosses are still kind of difficult. And I don't think a lot of people are attempting them yet. So we have some guides on the way for them if you are not, a top tier speed running quality player that wants to do molten core. It's easier than it was in vanilla because of experience, but you're not going to kill Rag in like one attempt, I feel.
No, I mean that's
Yeah.
clearly. So a lot of people want to compare the difficulty between classic and BFA, and of course BFA bosses are a lot more complicated, a lot more hurdles to get past. Guilds don't just get to max level and then kill Mythic Jaina, but to keep what to something to keep in mind though is that there are still a lot of things that you have to consider even for these old bosses, and one of the most exciting things about this was the speedrunning itself, being able to
Yeah.
actually get that many level 60s. Or I know that, not everyone was level 60 because you can be a bit lower to actually enter. But what apes did that was impressive was being able to get that many people up to the correct levels, and also min-maxing everything, putting the necessary reputation grinds on different people to be able to kill different bosses. And also, apparently, they had the perfect comp as well to kill the boss, the perfect number of, warlocks and everything for the different type of debuffs and buffs on the bosses. So there were still a lot of things that they had to consider, which would make a regular pug have to struggle more.
Yeah. There's a funny story about the hunter.
Mm-hmm.
They took people below level 60 to Molten Core,
Mm-hmm.
and you need a hunter on Magmadar because you need to learn Tranquilizing Shot and then dispel his enrages. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it's funny because when they started the raid, the hunter was not level 60, and they had to bring him in to get the book for Tranquilizing Shot. But then you have to be 60 to learn it, so they had to wait a few
Oh.
hours for the guy to level up so they could kill Magmadar.
Oh, they missed that detail. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. That's an example of only needing one hunter for this. So why would they level multiple hunters if they only needed one and the hunter is not topping the damage? So yeah, they did a lot of min maxing like that, which was very cool to see. And yeah, I think there should be less conversations about what game is harder or more impressive, and just appreciate these things. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see something like this happen.
Yeah. So another interesting world first was Joker D is
Mm-hmm.
a mage, and he was the world first level 60 using a Frost Mage AoE grinding build.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about records, and he dinged 60 while grinding mobs by Hearthclan and Western Plaguelands in front of over 300,000 Twitch
Yep.
viewers.
Yep.
And I was watching the stream, and towards the end, he was starting to get ganked or have his mobs pulled by other players,
Mm-hmm.
which was funny. But yeah, there just was a massive amount of support and celebration. And he was going to delete his character afterwards, but players sent him mail, and you
Yeah.
can't delete a character when there is mail, so he could not delete the character.
Yep. And
But
and, and
yeah, a
that's
lot
interesting
of
too, because it takes an hour for mail to arrive, right? That means people had mailed
yeah,
him beforehand, so he
yeah.
wasn't able to get rid of the mails, and so he wasn't able to delete his character. But yeah, Joker D, I think he streamed most of the leveling process, if not everything, and slowly but surely his viewer numbers would go up and up and up because he would,
Hmm.
be ahead of the curve, and that's one of the necessities in order to be able to be an AoE grinding mage. Because if you're not first, that means you're competing with others for the same mobs. But if you're ahead, then you have all the mobs for yourself. Um,
Yeah. And
so
he was
that's
using a lot of
important.
player hopping too. Like, whenever he would finish clearing out an area,
Mm-hmm.
he would join someone else's party and then swap layers and then have all the mobs up again to kill.
Only in the end, though. I'm not sure if
Right.
you read his comment on this, because he was streaming the whole thing, and he did not want to layer swap because it can be considered cheating, especially on less
Right.
popular servers. Um, so he avoided layer hopping completely until the last level and a half or so, or I don't know, maybe 2 levels or something, towards the very end, basically. He did that, and I think he said that the last bit that he did basically saved him about 1 or 2 hours of gameplay.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
at this point, he already knew that he was first, so he just did it
Right.
to like speed up the last part. So
Right.
in general, during the whole leveling process, he was not layer abusing, and most of it has even been streamed so people can see it too, because
Right.
most people tuned in at the last few bars, and that's when he was layer swapping. And then he actually got some like negative feedback on that, or criticism rather, being accused of
Right.
layer hopping throughout his whole leveling, and that's why he was first, and it's not true.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool to see that, and he was also very entertaining, and he definitely knew the Twitch communities. So he was playing the very hype songs, and people were happy, and the viewers just kept spiking, and yeah, people were excited to see World First 60 again, 15 years
Yeah.
later. It was awesome.
And I think that everyone got to see how mages can be so powerful while leveling because they can take out so many mobs by themselves, and everyone is struggling to
Hmm.
get gold for their epic mount. And while he may not be doing the quest for attunements, he is making a lot of gold and getting a lot of useful things like rune cloth or graze to vendor
Hmm.
that someone else might not have. So I know he was showing his bags at different points, and he had like over 400 gold at some point
Yeah.
in the final push after he got his mount, and just so many bags and so many lucrative things. So maybe it inspired other people to level up and see the power of a mage AoE grinding,
Hmm.
because they're really great gold farmers in places like Scarlet Monastery as well. So yeah, maybe he inspired some people to go play their mage and go do some AoE.
Yep. And not like we've seen enough mages already. I feel like when I look into different streamers and their raid comps, it's like 20 mages and then, one warlock if you're lucky, a couple rogues here and there. It's
I
like,
remember one of our writers do a tier list being like, oh, who's the best class while leveling and who's the best class for raiding, and people are like, how dare you say mages are good? Like, I think druids are good, or like, how dare you say warriors are more versatile?
yeah,
It's like, well, they like,
they
well,
are.
now we're seeing a whole raid of just warriors and mages. So yeah.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it's mages, rogues, and I think
You need
warriors
the three
because of
warlocks.
tanking.
You need the three warlocks so you get the different curses.
Hmm.
Warriors you want for the tanking, but also they're just really good DPS, especially as they get more gear.
Hmm. But I think warrior is difficult to level, so a lot of people don't level
Oh
warrior because of that. Um,
yeah,
I was just thinking in terms of like why people would choose that class, and mage because they feel they seem easier and feel very very strong because they are overtuned without having gear, or they're
right.
very strong even before having gear, just having the correct ranks of spells, and they have lots of utility and they have the drinks and the food while leveling. Um, I was watching Asmongold's stream and he was actually not able to find a single warlock. I think I'm not sure if he found one in the end,
Huh.
but he tried to invite a warlock and he could only find 4 max level warlocks on his server, and none of them were in his guild, so he didn't want to invite any of them. Um,
Interesting. Like the warlock leveling guide on Wowhead is our third most popular leveling guide. Usually
really?
like mage and warrior are like way ahead and always swapping between 1 and 2. And then
Ah.
number 3 is always a little behind, but it's been warlock pretty consistently. And then I want to say hunter and then rogue. Like I feel there's going to be some variation in like what is most popular versus what is most confusing, but
Yeah.
I know mages and warriors are popular in general, and that's why they're in the forefront.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I would have thought, or maybe there's not much to look up as a rogue, but I would have thought rogue is more popular.
I feel like there aren't as many class quests for them. Like, yeah, you get the thing to do your poisons, but with warriors, it's like, oh, now you're gonna need to go back and do your quest to get a chest this rage, and to
Mm,
go back and get this, important ability, or get the whirlwind axe. And warlocks have a lot of intricate things to get their
oh, the
various pets
pets, the
at different
mounts.
levels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And mages have the really good ice fury wand and some other quests as well. So maybe those classes just lend themselves to looking stuff up more.
Mm-hmm. And I think also mages, when you hear about AoE farming, you're like, oh, how do people do that? Then they also look that up. I could
Yeah,
imagine that
especially
happening.
with something like, you're doing Scarlet Monastery, and then you're like, oh, like, did you know that a mage can just like solo farm this? And you're like, whoa, like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
play a mage.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've noticed it a lot. Or I mean, I'm sure everyone has seen it. But in dungeon farms, everyone just wants mages. So I'm sure that also
Mhm.
piqued people's interest. Like, what is
Also, the
going
food
on
and
with
water.
mages?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do give the food and water as well, of course. But also, like, how do they deal all the damage? What kind of specs do people go? And
Hmm.
how can I be a good AoE spamming mage in those dungeons? What do I need to improve?
Yeah. Plus, they have the utility too. It's not just like they're dealing damage. It's like, oh, we're slowing them, and we can CC them, and we can root them in place, and do all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I think we're going to take a little break from classic news and talk about some BlizzCon and 825 news. But if you have any questions or things you want us to bring up, let us know in the chat about Classic. I know we didn't cover everything in detail, like, oh, there was a queue one day, because, it's not as important now because they're over, but if you want us to react to something, we will.
Mm-hmm. I also oh no, my brain just blanked out. I was gonna mention something, but I forgot. Oh, I was gonna mention two things. I remember the second thing now. If the first thing comes back, I'll mention it. But the second thing was to thank the people who have subscribed to the channel. We have Tenno20 with his 20 months of resub. Thank you very, very much for that, Tenno. And Aegis as well with his 20 months too. Thank you, thank you. And then we have Zach with his 6 months, a half a year of supporting. Thank you very much for that as well. And we also got a 1,000 bits donation from, let's see if I'm saying this right, Karaik or Karaisi, maybe. Kara, I'll call you Kara. Thank you so much for the 1,000 bits supporting Wowhead.
Thank you. So, revamped Recruit a Friend program and rewards. This is news hot off the presses. It came out right before this show.
It did.
So, as you are likely aware, there is no Recruit a Friend program active in WoW, and it's coming back in 8.2.5 along with other grouping improvements like Party Sync. And today, Blizzard released some more details on how it will work and the new rewards structure, which overall is pretty cool, but I'm still a little sad because I don't know if this means that all the other rewards are going away because, people just want some heads up when something is going away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I'm really curious about that too, if that means you can't get any of the old ones anymore.
Yeah. So why don't we pull up a picture of the rewards and I'll read out where some of these are from. So essentially, you can link yourself up to 10 people, and whenever each person adds game time to their account, that counts as progress to you earning a new reward. And the more friends that are adding things, the faster it will go. The first month is you get a monkey pet, Ricky, game time for the second month. You get a camel for the third month, a title for the fourth month, game time again, a weapon illusion, a cool tabard, a flying mount that kind of looks like a rickety engineering mount.
And it's a two-seater, right?
Yeah. A backpack that, well, it's a cloak that looks like a backpack, so that's kind of cool tech. And then finally a transmog set when you've earned 12 months of points. All the items have this very archaeology feel to them, and I can't help but think of the Hearthstone expansion that just came out, the Saviors of Uldum expansion, because I feel like the Hearthstone team tries to riff off what WoW is doing, Dalaran in Hearthstone had Dalaran burning, and they had the Nightborn doing stuff, and there's a lot of little BFA references with Vulpera and Sethrak, so I like to think that the kind of explorer Uldum desert feel is tied in with what they are doing with Hearthstone now. Interesting parallel.
I did not realize the Uldum thing happening in Hearthstone right now, because that was my first thought. Why is there an Uldum theme whole recruit a friend system going on right now when we're not really doing anything in Uldum, and the things that we are probably looking forward towards are a bit more, towards old gods and towards I don't know. I guess that we've done a lot of things to do with Nagas. Where's Uldum in the picture? What does this mean? Are we gonna see more of Uldum?
I mean, I guess Rathian was talking about doing some research in Uldum with his journal. He's like, I think the Forge of Origination is key. I don't know why. And it's like, oh God, please don't blow up Uldum again. That would be bad. But yeah, I mean, Uldum has a lot of Titans involved with it, and mechanisms to order the world. So maybe Mother would be interested in it, or Rathian is thinking that this is key to pushing back against the old gods. So we shall see. But yeah, they've definitely got this sort of Harrison Jones vibe with the hat, with the hat has belt and spikes on top of it, which is kind of crazy and over the top excessive. The belt's got a little potion vial on it. And
And this back
what?
piece that looks like a backpack is actually very cool. Because we
Yeah.
have nothing like that. Like every single back piece in the game is a back piece and like a cloak. And
Mhm.
now we have something which is not a cloak. And I'm not sure if I've seen that before.
What I also think is cool is how the base set looks like kind of like a vendor quality twill, like, common set you might loot early on in Classic WoW, but they've added a lot of doodads and three-dimensional details to make it more exciting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't just have a white shirt, they've got some sort of like rolled up cuff with a leather strap on it.
Mm-hmm.
Or your belt isn't plain, it's got a potion hanging from it. Like they've
Mm-hmm.
added all these little details to
Yeah,
make it
there's lots of
seem pretty
details.
special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, the potion in on the belts and the little details with the little, what are those, like little fangs or something on top of the hats?
Yeah, that's so.
And
Yeah,
like
that's
there's
pretty
so
funny.
many details in this, and it's very.
They're even wearing a necklace with a fang on it, and
Oh yeah,
usually
they
your
are.
characters don't really get necklaces, so that's
Yeah,
interesting.
they are wearing necklace, sure. And even the mount has like a little chest on the side,
Yeah.
like extra carrying stuff. And I think that's all interesting because a lot of times when things are introduced like this randomly, it's a little um, like a little teaser for what's coming.
Hmm.
So we're probably gonna
Right.
see more of this stuff actually in game um, in the future. I would assume. Of course, we don't know. But for example, the cloak that looks like a backpack, I have a feeling that we're probably gonna see more of that
Yeah,
in
I think that's
either
interesting tech.
mm-hmm, either in the either later on during this expansion or maybe in the future expansion.
Yeah, plus it opens the possibility if cloaks can take on other shapes
Mm-hmm.
beyond cloaks now, what else could we get on our back? Could we
Mm-hmm.
get quivers on our back or Librum books or
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of other strange things on our backs.
Mm-hmm.
Umbrellas, I don't know, like
Yeah,
take
yeah,
your
yeah,
hat
like
off and have it
anything.
hanging down on your back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the possibilities are endless if they can make cloaks do all sorts of different things now, besides just being like a flat piece
Mm-hmm.
of paper on your back.
And that reminds me of Fortnite actually, because in Fortnite you have back pieces and they can take the form of a lot of different things. One being, like mentioned in the chat right now, wings. So
Yep.
you have different wing animations or wing models that you can put as a back piece, and you also have these little bags that where pets can sit inside, for example.
Oh,
So maybe that's also something that's being considered. Maybe we can walk
the
around
pets would
having
be
our pets in
interesting.
our backpack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your favorite battle pets are shown in your backpack. I like
Yeah.
that.
I think that would be I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do notice the comments in the chat about how this is behind a paywall and everything. In a way, yes, true, because there's money involved with recruiting somebody. But what we're looking at here is more at what it actually is, because what's interesting are the new things that will hopefully later on be seen more in the game itself as well.
Blizzard also is purposely hiding this from us. We data mined a lot of these names called Renowned Explorer during the 825 PTR, but
Okay.
Blizzard used encryption technology to hide a lot of the details. So we knew there was armor called Renowned Explorer, but we couldn't actually see it. Or like we knew there was an item that was a backpack cloak, but we couldn't see that as
Okay.
well, or one of the
Mm-hmm.
mounts. So we knew there was a battle pet name, but we couldn't see the monkey. So it's like Blizzard purposely didn't want this to be seen with data mining. They wanted to just announce this in their official blog post
Mm-hmm.
to get the initial hype.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's interesting. I mean, they have the tech now to hide things completely. And on our end, we're not annoyed or anything. We're just like, oh, well, now that we have the names, we'll hype up the names. Like people eat up the hype either way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, just an interesting detail how Blizzard was like controlling the presentation better than some other recruiter friend updates in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Although
So
I
it was
still would
all a
like to see the
surprise.
old mounts. Yeah, I still would like
Yeah.
the old mounts. So
Uh-huh.
maybe they'll go to the shop, or I don't know. It would be nice if they went somewhere because some of them were really cool. Like the Hippogriff was cool, and then the Cindermane Charger. I always like the flavor text on that because it's like, oh, Ragnaros. This was a gift for Ragnaros to one of his daughters, and I don't know. It just made me sad thinking about like a little Ragnaros elemental family.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And speaking of things being encrypted and hidden, we can talk about some more of the PTR things with
oh, sure.
some
Yeah.
of the models for Starfang looking very, very weird and very difficult to actually be able to decipher.
Yeah. So, we, there's been some hints that there's going to be a war front in Orgrimmar, and Blizzard shipped some texture files that look like Sourfang, except part of it is encrypted, so we can't actually see these textures on a body. So they look really weird spread out.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing which took our attention is there is a new texture file that appears to have the amulet he is wearing in the cinematics and briefly took off when he was, wanting to abandon the horde that his son used to
Mm-hmm.
wear.
Mm-hmm.
So while he wears it still in the cinematics, I don't believe his model wears it in game. So based on these weird looking models and how new Sourfang NPCs are encrypted, we think that the new model is going to be Sourfang wearing his necklace once again, doing something in Orgrimmar as part of that Durotar warfront. Because, Sourfang still has a rebellion and wants to unseat Sylvanas.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I thought these
we don't know
creatures were
too.
really interesting. They look so strange and creepy.
Yeah, normally we try not to post stuff like this by itself because we know it looks creepy, but if we have if we have the textures on a model, we'll show that instead, but we can generate pictures like this of like basically every NPC. So it's super
Uh-huh.
creepy.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
thought
like
that was
someone just like
interesting.
ironed them out
Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh, that's his jaw and
I think
that's
that's a
his,
face. I'm not sure though.
yeah."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so they want that hidden as well, and it's like, why do they want this hidden? Is this a big story point? Do they want this to be a secret until BlizzCon and they're okay, giving us a little Rathian and a little Kalia to build a pipe, but when it comes to Sourfang and a plot twist with Sylvanas, maybe they want that more under wraps for now.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we can't forget that there was a cape icon data mine that seemed to have a Heart of Azeroth
Oh yeah.
globe on the
Mm-hmm.
back of it,
We still don't know what that
and
is.
still don't know what that is. And there are other encrypted creatures that have baby Murloc sounds, which to us implies that it's a BlizzCon reward because Blizzard always does a lot of Murlocs for BlizzCon. So
Mm.
I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, why are you only posting about Classic? Like, did you give up on the PTR?" And it's like, well, Blizzard hasn't been giving us PTR updates, and they've been purposely hiding it. So we did this post to be like, okay, we actually took a look at the PTR.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff is hidden.
Mm-hmm.
We can guess there's something with Sourfang or Murlocs at BlizzCon, but that's sort of what everyone expected anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
yeah,
can't give you
so
too much news.
yeah, we did our best with that.
Mm-hmm. The PTR is simply quiet and secret at the moment.
Yep.
And I think Blizzard probably feels like they have so much hype around WoW Classic that there's no need to give too much BFA stuff. So once WoW Classic has calmed down a bit, maybe then there'll suddenly be a patch or suddenly patch news, proper ones.
Yeah, I also feel like since the story is very high stakes, they don't want they want to sort of control how they're going to release it, similar to the
True.
recruit a friend models. Like
Mm-hmm.
they'd rather, I don't know, like BlizzCon cinematic. Oh, look, there's Sourfang and Sylvanas talking, as opposed to like, oh, like WoW had found a line of text being like, "I will kill you, Sourfang." Like it's, they probably wanted to have the proper
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
gravity.
Ah,
So
BlizzCon is
I
soon. That's a very
I
good
know.
point. Keep more secrets so you can, actually announce exciting things on the
Mm-hmm.
show. And especially because this year we didn't have a Gamescom either. So
No,
that means we need like double the excitement. And we have an
exactly.
extra day as well. The BlizzCon is officially one day longer than what it's been before. So yeah, that actually explains a lot of the secrets, I feel.
Yeah. So, another interesting detail related to kind of WoW taking control of its image and rebranding is that they've updated the art used on the shop as well as the launcher for the PTR and a few other places. Previously, the art for things like the complete collection had little images of a main character from every expansion. So you had like Arthix next to Gara, Gramash next to Illidan, etc. And they've now replaced the kind of medley of key art with a picture of a dwarf on a griffin being chased by a troll on a wyvern in front of a very sort of pretty abstract mountains with greenery. And it a lot of people were saying it reminded them of original WoW, how the Griffin Rider art is so iconic, and the Griffin looks very similar to that, as well as the classic loading screens. And I think that this is deliberate because they did this around the time of a sale. Plus, the name of the artwork in like the files of the website is called Rebrand. So it's like, Blizzard is trying to move away from like, oh, WoW is hyped because of the BFA expansion or the Legion to, oh, this is the fantasy game where there's like the two sides and it's, magical, whimsical things, you're flying through the air. And they've really been promoting the Griffin a lot too, with things like the artwork. And then the alabaster mounts, that was also the Griffin and Wyvern. So I think they're trying to really like dive into nostalgia and have sort of a timeless appeal as opposed to having the artwork like date themselves to one expansion, especially if you're getting all these classic people that,
have no
maybe
idea.
they didn't even play Legion or Warlords. Maybe they, stopped after Burning Crusade and they're just like, whoa, like Illidan is like the good guy now. Like, why is he on this art? Yeah.
And I think in general, just looking at this picture with all the different expansions, let's say you didn't play them and none of these expansions mean anything to you, or maybe one of them
like,
does.
what's the panda?
like what's this? Why is there a panda there? And like what's going on over there? And like what's this thing in the middle? Is that
or like what do you do in
important
2
human
expansions?
and an orc, or are they random? So it's I think like you said, with this sort of rebrand, it's becoming a more I wouldn't say generic, but it's the only word I can think of now, but a more sort of general World of Warcraft face, which is easier for people to digest and get into by just seeing this sort of magic flying thing. Flying griffin.
I also feel like I prefer the art of this because it I like the look of it. It looks very like fantastical and nostalgic. And
yeah, the fantasy feeling is there.
The key art is okay, but they all have slightly different styles, and I think that it's a little jarring. Like you can tell that the Night Elf and the Blood Elf for the early expansions have a different art style than say like Arthas, who is super detailed, but like Illidan has a different look. So I feel like the key art was a little, I don't know, felt a little slapdash all over the place, merging 7 pieces of art together. But this has a more timeless appeal. Like, you don't need to know anything about the story. It's just, these
it's
two
always relevant
sides, like chasing each other, which gets the conflict across. But it's just fun. They're flying through mountains. It's fantastical. It's escapist. So speaking of art, we've got some more art to talk about, which could also have some interesting spoilers tied to it. Well, not spoilers, but speculation, I guess.
Speculations.
So this is the key art for BlizzCon 2019. And as usual, there is a character representing each franchise. People are speculating that because there's a lot of black on the screen, there could be like a Warcraft 3 character or some sort of new character reveal that could go in that bottom right-hand corner. Like I think they did that for Overwatch the year it came out. But of course, we're most interested in Sylvanas here, who is, this is not her first time part of the key art. She's got her BFA look in her armor. She's got her red eyes, and she's got this cloud of kind of billowing smoke around her, which could be her Banshee form from the Battle for Azeroth teaser, or it could be that weird smoke we saw with the old gods in Rise of Ashara.
Yep.
And the controversies don't stop there, because usually the WoW character is very relevant to whatever is announced. So, for example, Gamescom 2018 had Queen Ashara, and that's when they had the Warbringer cinematic. BlizzCon 2018 had Sourfang, and that's when we got the Lost Honor cinematic. When we had BFA, it featured Jaina. When Legion was announced, we had Gul'dan. So there's a long history of that. However, Sylvanas was featured in 2016, and that was the year we got a patch 7.2 and 7.3, and she had nothing to do with any of the announcements. So leave it to Sylvanas to be the wild card.
So why do you think she was in that picture then?
I just think they needed a cool character. Like I think they've done Illidan before when he was not really part of anything, and I think that maybe they thought that, you know, she had a role in the Legion cinematic trailer along with Varian, so she'd be a good character to feature again. But yeah, so she's back in this artwork. She's in front of a horizon, and the back of it is black. So a lot of people are speculating that we could be going to the Shadowlands. She is the third Warbringer. We don't really know her story yet, and Jaina and Ashara both were in the spotlights. You know, Sylvanas wants to avoid, you know, eternal death, horrible memories in the Shadowlands from her time in Icecrown. So maybe we're all going to the Shadowlands, which could also be the realm of some of the old gods, like N'Zoth is rumored to, you know, exist in several dimensions. And I know there's been a lot of leaks floating around. All of them highlight the Shadowlands, I think, because it's cool.
Yeah, people but, like,
they all have a different way of getting there. And I think the most recent one was going on about, you know, like maybe everyone dies, then we wake up in the Shadowlands. I don't know what to think about these. It's weird how they'll go really in depth about something, but then not mention some important character. Like some of these leaks don't mention what Sourfang and Thrall are doing, and it's like, it feels like that would be important. Like, you know, like it feels like there's such central characters that not really knowing what they're up to is like, I don't know. It's where like a leak will be like, oh, you know, like Tyrande will do like this and this and this, and then they just leave out the character that has a bunch of cinematics. So you're like, really? Like, the leak didn't have anything to do? You couldn't extrapolate anything what happened to this? Like, Sourfang and Thrall are just not present in the final battle? Like, I'm not sure about this. But I do think it's likely we are going to Shadowlands in some form, because there's just so much going on with, like, death, and we know that Sylvanas has to be the focus of the upcoming patch because the other Warbringers got their spotlight too. And now she's on the key art. So I don't think it's a fluke, but I'm not sure the recent leaks are 100% accurate.
Do you think it's possible we'll get an expansion of us being dead?
I don't know how that would work. Like, I feel like that would be really confusing for marketing. Like, come back into battle for Azeroth, you're dead.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah, I don't know either.
Because be like, also when you think of your character dying, you know, in Diablo, like, when they make a big deal at your character, it's like, oh, permadeath, you died, you can't access it. So you don't want people's knee-jerk reaction to be like, oh my god, did I not log in? Is my character destroyed? You know, is this a punishment that I didn't play WoW long enough? Anyone with a year of inactive activity has a dead character. But I think that I think I mentioned this before, but the tech in Mechagon, where you can shift to like the AU version pretty easily, I wonder if we would see some of this where like maybe we can slip into the Shadowlands easily and we could see things around us with a different like tint or some lighting differences. So like, you know, we're seeing worlds through the eyes of like someone that's dead or floating between the Shadowlands and the current world, something like that. We also have Vol'jin. Vol'jin is having fun sort of going between the Shadowlands and
we would be able to meet him there, right? Probably.
Yeah.
Because I still feel like his story is not done.
Yeah, so maybe we would be slipping back and forth if you were an adventurer. It seems like you'd have to like update every character in the world if everyone was dead, and that seems like Blizzard's not going to do a full like Cataclysm revamp again.
Yeah.
But if it's like, oh, you're a chosen hero, you know, like you can walk like in both worlds and you take a potion and everything is like purple around you as you're, you know, under the influence of the Shadowlands. I think that could be interesting. Yeah, of course, you know, like with some continent and zones in the Shadowlands, but you could observe, I don't know, people in Stormwind while in another realm, like Vol'jin.
I think that's the part where I'm like, is this possible? Like, is this possible to pull off for like that? Because it's not only do you have the effect of being dead in the new zones, but what about in the old zones? Like, can
Yeah.
you still communicate with other players who are not that level and
Yeah,
not dead yet?
especially with how Blizzard is adding party sync so you can replay quests at any level with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Uh I think that it would be sort of narratively jarring to be like, "Oh, you're dead and then you're alive again." And then it's like, how do you what happens if you wipe during a boss fight? Like, are you double dead? Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it sounds really, really, really cool, and I would love to see something like that, but I'm just not sure how it would make sense.
Yeah, so people are like, what's the leak? So basically there was this idea that Sylvanas would be attacking Stormwind, and in the raid we would go back and try to get control of Stormwind, and then all this crazy stuff happens, including like the Lich King showing up, and then we're like Alliance and Horde hate each other again, and everyone is gradually dying, with Anduin and Sylvanas the last to die, and then we all wake up in the Shadowlands, and Sylvanas is like, "You are now prepared." But I just thought it was weird because they were going into like detail about like Lorthamar dying or like Tyrande killing Thanos, but they didn't mention what several very key characters were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what just had me wondering. Like if it sort of felt like Wish was like, oh yeah, Tyrande gonna get Thanos, but it's like Tyrande doesn't even want to deal with Stormwind right now. She's off in Darkshore, so that's a big leap to have her
Mm-hmm.
come back, and like she wasn't even fighting Ashara. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I think it's a cool idea and it subverts expectations, especially that the final boss fight should be triumphant.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's too much confusion, or you'd have to the characters would be acting sort of out of character just to put them all into that same space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do still think we're going to the Shadowlands. I feel like maybe Sylvanas ends up dying. She has her third death, and then she ends up there and is doing stuff sort of from like beyond the current realm.
Mm-hmm. So we have to go there to then deal with her, maybe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe some faction leaders end up there, but I don't think it's going to end in Stormwind with everyone
Everyone
slowly dying
dying.
and killing
Yeah.
each other.
Okay.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
like I know that the end boss is not meant to be like a totally feel good, boring experience, but can you imagine the outrage of Alliance players being like, oh, we started the expansion with, Teldrassil being burned, and then we're ending the expansion with Stormwind being attacked by Sylvanas, and then we all die and we don't regain any of our lands. Like, can you just imagine that reaction?
Yeah, I mean, everything just going downhill. But then again, the Horde weren't doing that great either, right? Like they
Right,
lost
but
Undercity, and I
no,
think
Sylvanas blew up Undercity.
true, true. But
Yeah,
as a Horde player, like you lost it. Like you don't have it anymore
right,
because of your leader that you don't agree with, maybe.
right.
And then on top of that, wasn't it in the leaks as well that Thunderbluff was also going to be destroyed as a
Yeah,
sort
the
of
leaks as
yeah,
the decoy.
yeah, as a
But
decoy.
at least that was I believe Thunder Bluff was saved, and then it's like, oh no, they attacked Stormwind, and to me that's just like, how
Okay.
stupid would we be to just like we
Yeah.
already felt for that with Teldrassil. Like we already all ran off to Silithus and left Teldrassil undefended. So
Mhm.
we're gonna do the same thing with Thunder Bluff and Stormwind.
Mhm.
I mean, we have made some pretty bad decisions in BFA, so I guess we could. I mean, we did like pick up the Blade of the Black Empire and bring it to Nazoth, and then accepted his gift and then gave it to Sylvanas.
Mhm.
So that was pretty questionable, but I don't know. I feel like it would be like a pretty traumatic story, and it would require us to do some pretty dumb things that we already did. So a lot of people would be like, "Oh, like why are we just being stupid now to advance the plot? Didn't we learn from,
Yeah.
losing another alliance capital city?"
Yep. Yep. Yep.
um, but I guess with this Durotar Warfront, something could happen to Orgrimmar as well, if that's a thing with Sourfang. You know, Like maybe something happens with Durotar with the Warfront, and then something happens to Stormwind a patch later.
Mm-hmm.
I hope nothing happens. I'm just like very peaceful. Like that's why I like vanilla. It's like you hear this like, oh, the tree's corrupted or like the Defias are angry, but it's just sort of there in the background. You can just sort of enjoy the nice zones and not have to be like, oh, like will the city be destroyed in a few months?
Yeah, just don't do the quest. Then there's no trouble.
Yeah.
Just go around killing boars, and then everything is fine.
Yeah.
No,
But yeah,
but it's
so
gonna be interesting to see because there's so much so many different leaks and so much hype around everything, and I'm sure
it's
the
interesting.
WoW Classic hype has also built more hype towards this as well
Yeah.
because people
I
more
was also going to
curious about what's
say
gonna
that we
happen.
don't know how the expansion is going to end. So you
Mm-hmm.
have like all this intense hype because people are just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, have it make sense. Like, what happens to Ashara? Where's this? Where's that? And I think if you do it too much, it's not good because people are like interested in what comes next versus enjoying the actual game. And then it's like, what do you do once you know how it ends? Like, will you play the game or you just like, it's like, how do you? People hated the ending of Game of Thrones because they built it up as this mystery,
Oh
and it's like,
yeah.
well, can you actually enjoy the piece of art for what it is, or is the hype just about knowing who is going to be on the throne? So
Mm-hmm.
I hope BFA doesn't turn out like that. I hope people will actually be able to enjoy parts of BFA and not be like, oh, that was the plot twist. I'm angry, rah, type
Yeah.
of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll see soon. BlizzCon is in
Yeah,
less than
in
2
less than a
months.
month. Is it 2
Yeah,
months?
2 months.
2 months, yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't count. 2 months, yes. Oh.
So, speaking of BFA and hype, we mentioned this a little before, but Battle for Azeroth is 20% off through September 30th, and this includes the standard edition and digital deluxe edition. And you get a level 110 boost with this as well. So, yeah, obviously they want to do this to get people interested from Classic who like BFA. So, I don't have any problem with this. Sales are good. So,
Yeah, sales are fine.
yeah. Yeah.
And also, if you're somebody who actually spends money on boosting characters, buying a BFA expansion and putting it on a secondary account for yourself is also a way to get a boosted character for less money.
Yeah. So, our next two stories they seem different at first, but then the timing of them could actually make them related. We first got word that Blizzard was suing Chinese game company Sina Games over copyright
Oh, this was funny.
infringement. Yeah, there's a game called Glorious Saga, and it's very, very similar to World of Warcraft. Like Alliance versus Horde, Illidan, everything is quite similar.
Okay, let me show you some screenshots of the game.
Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
Wow,
the
I've
top
never seen
one
this game
is
before.
the logo for the game, and in the bottom you see the left side being the game in question, and the right side being the original World of Warcraft. And these are not the only similarities. There's a lot of different similarities, a lot of different characters that have been straight up copied, even including the names, such as Jaina Proudmoore. So apparently Blizzard is going after this company and suing them.
Yeah, which is notable because there are a lot of rip-off games. But Blizzard went after this one, which is also a mobile game. Now, a few days after that, a Chinese phone manufacturer, Xiaomi, I think that's how you say it, they created World of Warcraft branded mobile phones for the Redmi Note 8 Pro, which is known for being a phone that is good for gaming. And the manufacturer even like posted a screenshot being like, "Oh, well, will you be playing WoW Classic?" So this has led to a lot of speculation that Blizzard sued the Chinese mobile game company around the time they are trying to make WoW mobile phones. What could be next? Is there a WoW mobile game? Is that why Blizzard is suddenly trying to, crack down on
Make
copycat
sure to clear
games?
those copycats.
So that's all interesting. The phone boxes look really cool though. I like the marketing on these, how you've got like the phone box rising up from the lava.
They do look really cool.
Yeah. And they made Horde and Alliance editions of
Yep.
the Note 8 Pro. They are released on August 29th. Uh, and yeah, it's interesting to see what they're going to do. I know I even think someone was playing Classic on their phone,
Wait,
which
really?
was interesting. And I guess, Classic has such lightweight requirements. I guess you could do that.
Yeah, no, it's true, but I wonder how the playability is though, like with interface and everything. I feel
I
like
guess
how do
you
you
have
play
fewer
WoW without a
buttons.
mouse and keyboard? Well, I guess you can connect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
also, remember the PTR recently updated where the user can log in with a phone number instead of your email address. So
Oh.
I have to wonder if this is all related.
Oh. So maybe some kind of auto login depending on what your phone number is.
Yeah, or they're trying to do something where you could do something with WoW on your phone. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know there was all the speculation around a Warcraft version of Pokemon Go, but with the direction of these phones and the company who's making the phones tweeting like the login screen on the phone, it makes you wonder if they want you to try playing WoW Classic or something related to like the actual multiplayer game on your phone.
Wait, the login screen that they posted, was that taken from a mobile?
I thought so. Um,
Yeah, maybe.
let's see.
That's cool.
I think it was can I log in and see this? Oh, it's not letting me log in now. It's like you're not from China. Um,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I know there was someone who was actually playing on their phone who's very popular on Reddit a few days ago.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess we'll see what's happening, but it's just interesting how uh I can't think of the last sort of WoW branded phone or mainstream
No.
merchandise we've had in the
Mm-hmm.
United States,
Mm-hmm.
and these phones look pretty epic.
They do look really cool.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll
So
see where the next route is. The
yeah.
next path for Blizzard World of Warcraft. Is it going to be
Yeah.
a WoW mobile game?
Maybe that's what that little empty space was on the Blizzard key art. There's gonna be a phone there.
Oh my god.
There's gonna be a phone in
Just
the
an
split screen
actual
between
straight up
Diablo
phone.
Immortal and like WoW Classic phone.
Uh-huh. I guess we'll see.
So before we wrap things up, I just wanted to highlight some of the things going on with Wowhead recently.
Mm-hmm.
If you watched the last show, you may have seen Quissy who is really into WoW Classic and is one of our main guide writers on Wowhead for WoW Classic. So if you've used um, a lot of the dungeon guides or profession guides or the dungeon quest walkthroughs, she is responsible for a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been watching analytics and streams to see what people are using the most on Wowhead, what their average level is, and we have been doing a ton of work improving our guides based on what we think people need the most. So our
Mm-hmm.
profession guides have things like these are the best endgame recipes to choose, or
Oh
here's a
yeah, that's
full
a really
list
good one.
of
Mm-hmm.
yeah, here's a list of all of our like dragon scale leatherworking versus elementals. You can see what you're going to get because we know a lot of people are in that 30 to 40 range where you can train
Mm-hmm.
that. Not all of our dungeon guides had the quest walkthroughs, but we've been adding them for a lot of mid-level dungeons. We just got like Uldaman and why am I blanking? Scarlet Monastery, Maradon, and Sunken Temple done this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we are trying to add walkthroughs to all the guides as well as BOE sections and notable reasons to run the dungeon, which I think when people start getting into places like Maradon will be really helpful because it's like, oh, this ring is just happens to be best in slot for every melee, or this trinket is actually really good for tanks, so don't vendor it after you do the quest. So
Yep.
stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been spending a lot of time on those guides. We also added in weapon progression paths to all of our leveling guides because we know leveling weapons are really popular. We're seeing a lot of traffic to them, so we wanted to highlight things from notable quests or bosses in popular dungeons you're probably running. And we are also doing some things with our gold farming guides and trying to expand out our molten core guides as well. So we'll be right on track when more people hit 60.
Yep. When do you think the average person will hit 60? If they play,
I want
let's
to
say,
say
like
maybe
5-6
2
hours
weeks,
a day.
because basically what I'm seeing with like what the most popular class guides are, Scarlet Monastery is one of the top guides on the site.
Okay.
And then behind that, it's still like Razorfen, Crawl, and Black Fathom. So stuff in that, like Gnomrigan. So it's all sort of 30-ish, like low 30s, I feel, is where a lot of people are at. So they still have a ways to go.
Okay.
Especially
that's interesting because you can see what dungeons they're looking up the most. So
yeah,
then they must be around that level range.
yeah, like Maradon is not really up there yet. Like we're seeing Alderman start to creep up, but yeah, I mean, I still think I think you're still ahead of the curve. Because yeah, like Alderman is not into cracking our top 25 yet.
Yeah,
but we're seeing things like cooking jump up and first aid jump up and leatherworking jump up because people are in that 30 range, and you need to do the weird things to train artisan in that range, or you need like with engineering, you need to pick the specialization at 30. So there's all that sort of stuff people we are looking up.
That's cool. Yeah, I got my quest item to be able to max first aid and the enchanting
the
vendor
quest.
or enchanting trainer in Olderman as well.
Yeah, she yeah, she's the best artisan trainer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just like a lot of people fight to her and then don't realize they don't have enough gold or enough materials to learn everything.
Yeah.
So they have to like go back and then head back in to train Enchanted Thorium and the last few things at 250.
Yeah, I'm there. I did not have the mats to skill up, so I learned the arts in enchanting, but I did not learn all the different patterns. I'll be going back later on. Yeah. Well, let me highlight 2 more subs, and then we may have a little wrap up of today's show, actually. So Macken780, thank you very much for deciding to subscribe to the channel and support Wowhead. Really appreciate it. And we also have a 0x Kiss Me Goodbye XO who used his Twitch Prime sub. So thank you for that as well, supporting Wowhead. This covers all of the different news that we wanted to touch for today. And most of it was classic indeed, but we did have, a few live news here and there as well, and a few things that are coming up very soon, like the Recruit a Friend. And now, in case you guys were wondering if anything is going on with a PTR, now you know.
Yeah, we're trying really hard to have a variety of news. It's just Blizzard knows what they're doing, and they don't want to take away interest from
of course
the game. They want everyone to focus on WoW Classic. So, and we don't want to do something like write this, essay on BFA and have nobody read it because the hype machine is with Classic, and then we've, wasted like 8 hours editing and writing this article that no one is reading because they'd rather just have us post, cool axe weapon Classic. So,
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. As soon as there's more specific information, maybe a patch date or some kind of thing which is letting us know that 8.25 is just around the corner, then I'm sure we'll see a little bit of a bump on the BFA content.
Yeah.
But for now,
we actually have been posting some
WoW
things.
Classic. Yeah.
With the holiday last week, they actually had this sale on merchandise.
Okay.
And it was, I want to say like 25% off all WoW merchandise, and it included the statues, and usually they aren't. So you were saving like $100 on each statue. So, we try to cover general interest news like that, which isn't exactly classic, but it's still something a WoW fan would appreciate. And I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, thank you so much." Oh, yeah, the Doom Hammer is $400, so when you get 25% off of that, it's a big saving.
Yeah. That's a good point.
We're doing what we can, but based on the traffic we're seeing on Twitch and Reddit growth, and even the Wowhead breakdown, there's just even though a classic article may not be appealing to you personally, a lot of people on Wowhead are consuming the classic content, and not everyone that's using the content, is voicing their opinion. So we're trying to cater to all of our different audiences, and we know that some people that like one thing might not like something else. But like we're not just posting stuff
for the sake
blindly. There's a lot of thought that goes into things, especially because we know a lot of people that are coming back are not really, vocal and chatty. They just want to look up their information. They don't really participate or say if they like something, but we can see with the traffic what people are clicking on the most, and we want to help that like silent majority have a good time on the site as well. So
yeah, no, I think that's the best way to do it. The best way to have the most interesting information.
Yep.
And so, I just realized that we didn't talk about Sass. He wasn't here today.
Oh yeah, it's Tuesday, so he couldn't make it. It's Tuesday. He's at the doctor's office. Maybe
is that going to be
a
Tuesday thing in general, or?
I hope not. I mean, it would be really bad if he was sick every week and had to go to the doctor
sick. Okay. No, okay.
Yeah.
That's bad. Hopefully everything is okay. I wasn't sure what you meant with like a doctor thing. Like, does he? I thought maybe he has some kind of like side job thing where he goes there.
The doctor on the side.
Like, I don't know. Maybe he did something, some kind of project on the side. Okay. If he's not well, I hope he gets better soon. Hope to see him
I think he was mentioning something like he was checking out some like leg pain he was having on and off for a while. So I think that's it. We actually hung out on a Saturday. We went to this very elaborate, over the top costume Alice in Wonderland tea. Yeah, we all dressed up. So that was fun. But yeah, I think he just is investigating some just like chronic pain in his leg.
Okay. Well, I hope that works out well.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see him next week instead, joining us. And I've been trying to keep track of the chat, and I think that we've commented / responded to all the questions and certain statements as well. If not, you can make sure to ask us again, either this show, next show on YouTube. This show will be on YouTube as well, so in case you didn't catch the whole show, you can listen to all of it over there. And there wasn't that much visual stuff, so this week is definitely one of those shows that you could just put in the background as you're maybe cleaning the house or leveling in World of Warcraft or anything, just to see or just to hear what's up.
I think we had a very important visual when Brightpaw climbed up and stuck his head into the camera.
We need a screenshot of that. A screenshot or a clip of that. Because I don't think he's ever done that. It was a very clear picture of his face. It was so cute.
It was so... He didn't even just sit up. He went up on his hind legs and he put his paw on the top of the laptop.
I think he was probably sniffing the camera.
Yeah.
It was really cute. Yeah, when you take a screenshot or a clip of that part, it was very, very cute. Yeah, thank you to everyone for hanging out in the chat. Hopefully some of the news today were, interesting and something that you could use. Maybe you already went to pick up some drinks and food from the Harvest Festival. I know I'm probably going to check that out if I'm not playing with a mage. It's a very, very useful
Warriors
stuff.
really love the food.
Oh, warriors, yes. Warriors, and I've heard a lot of rogues also complain, so go pick up that food before you go questing tonight. Very, very useful. And we'll be back next week at the same time.
Yeah, Tuesday, not Thursday.
Yes. For now, for this month, our shows will be on Tuesdays. So on Tuesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. European Central Time. And we will cover whatever is new between now and then.
Yeah.
So thank you again for hanging out, for supporting. Shout out to all the people who are watching from the Wowhead front page as well.
Yep.
Don't be shy. Feel free to join us in the Twitch chat if you want, either today, next time, or whenever. And we'll see you guys next time. Oh, we need to do the high five before we say...
Yeah, gotta do our high five. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So, 3, 2, 1.
Perfect. We got it.
Yay.
Very, very synced.
Brightpaw is somewhere. He abandoned us after his camera flounced.
They have seen enough of me today. If they want to see more, I'm going to have to get paid or something. I was
He's
a
like,
very
follow
cute
me on
face.
Twitter for more pictures.
Yeah. Yes, follow me on Twitter. All right. Well, thank you guys, and we'll see you all next time. Bye
Yep.
bye.
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 Bye. Bye.